It has taken me until almost the end of January, but I'm now putting out my last top 5 of 2016 list. And this time it's the big one, it's video games. As I said in my other top 5 videos, these games are simply games I have played first in 2016, not necessarily games that were released in 2016. So without further ado, number 5. When I first saw the announcement of this game, I was shocked at how many things that I love were going to be in it. Portal, Back to the Future, Doctor Who. I mean, we've never had a good Doctor Who video game, and this looked like we might end up with one, or at least part of one. So I was really excited for this when it was announced, and then I saw how much the starter pack was. And then I kind of held back a bit. But then, earlier in 2016, I found someone selling a Wii U starter pack second hand for a very good price, so I had to have it. I will confess, I've only played a chunk of it so far. I've put in a few hours, but I'm nowhere near the end, and I haven't got to all the good bits yet. However, I have really enjoyed it so far. I love the self-referential plot. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, which I always find entertaining in a game like this.
Hey, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
And the act of actually building the portal and the figures gives you something to do outside of the game as well, and that's a really nice touch. It really helps. The actual gameplay is great, very responsive. I mean, Traveller's Tales have been making LEGO games for a good few years now, so they've got this down to a fine art. But the advantage this has is because it's a new story, because it's a story I don't know, it's kept me much more interested than the other LEGO games have in the past. I mean, these LEGO games, they're a huge juggernaut nowadays. They've basically taken over the traditional 3D platformer, and I'm fine with that. As I say, they make them really well. But often, I start them but don't finish them. Where a lot of them are adaptations of things I already know, Jurassic World, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, etc, etc. There's nothing in the story that keeps me going, that keeps me interested, and the gameplay can get a bit repetitive. But LEGO Dimensions manages to bypass these issues for me, because it is a brand new story, because it mashes characters together that you'd never normally see together, and because it does break up its gameplay. I don't know if this is a thing with modern LEGO games, I confess. I haven't played many recently, but it does break up the levels with mini boss fights and other puzzles and stuff, and it just helps to balance the game a little bit more. Is it perfect? No. Is the gameplay based around too much collecting things and wonky puzzles with weird solutions? Yes. Is it frustrating sometimes to have to move the figures on the portal when all you really want to do is sit back on the sofa and play your game? Yes, but it's still a lot of fun, and it is one of those games that's continually expanding. They've got however many extra level packs there are already, so this could keep going and going for a long time to come. Number 4. This game has been around since 2010, and I've never played it. And then it showed up in a Humble Bundle I bought, so I still never got round to playing it, because that's the way with Humble Bundles. For those of you who don't know what Humble Bundle is, it's a website where you can pay what you want towards a selection of games, and that money goes to charity. The more you pay, the more games you get. But I'd always recommend it. They're changing their bundles every couple of weeks. They do ebooks and e-comics as well. Definitely worth a look. You can pick up some really good stuff there, and obviously all the money goes to a great cause. I'll pop a link below. So back to the game. Earlier this year, I noticed quite how many unplayed games I had in my Steam library. So I picked this basically at random and loaded it up. And I really loved it. For those of you who haven't played this game and don't know what it is, it's basically a 2D platformer with a real retro aesthetic. But instead of a jump button, you have a switch gravity button. So instead of doing this, you do this. From a plot point of view, this is because you're in a spaceship that has crashed and the gravity's gone all wonky and you're trying to find your crewmates, and yeah, it's not the most exciting of plots, but it really does the job well. And I know there are lots of retro 2D platformers out there with a similar aesthetic and feel, but this one really does do everything very well indeed. It's more of a puzzle platformer, which is a genre I particularly am a big fan of. The game itself isn't that long. According to Steam, I spent maybe 4 or 5 hours on this game, but it was really worth it. I'm sure there's some post-game stuff I can do, and I can improve my scores and things like that. But if you just want a short, fun puzzle platformer, then this is definitely the game for you. Number 3. Okay, I can hear the shocked noises from a mile away. Yes, it's a mobile game. Yes, it's a free-to-play game. And yes, it is the most talked about game of 2016. But none of that detracts from the fact that it is a fun game. And more importantly, it's a fun game within itself. It's not a fun game once you've spent out extra money on it. Also, it got me out and about, which doesn't happen all that often. I'm not a big Pokemon guy. My wife, Videogames, who does podcasts on video games and things, did an episode on Pokemon. She's a huge Pokemon fan. So I did annoy her quite a lot when I started this, with lots of questions, because I didn't really understand who was who and what beat what and all the rest of that stuff. So I do recommend having a helpful person you can ask these questions to. Or I guess you could use the internet, or listen to her podcast that covers some stuff as well. But my lack of experience with Pokemon didn't matter. The simplicity made it easy to pick Pokemon Go up and just start playing. And there's not really a lot more to say. I know it doesn't sound particularly fun on paper. You walk around, you catch Pokemon, you battle Pokemon, you go to Pokestops and get free stuff. But it is really engrossing. And the big thing for me that I mentioned earlier is that its microtransactions are done correctly. They're not intrusive. You do not have to buy things to play the game. And most of the things that are available for you to buy do really aid you in the game itself. And they're not expensive. Yeah, I've bought a few Pokeballs when I've run out and been in a place that's populated with lots of Pokemon I didn't have. But most of the time, I don't spend a penny on this game. There are also regular updates, fixing bugs, tweaking things, and bringing more content into the game. You can go and download it for free on your phone right now. Why don't you do it? Number 2. I thought long and hard over this, because this next game is a remastering, and technically, as it's a remastering of a game that I had played the original of, I did wonder whether it should appear in this list at all. But it was really good. So, here it is. If you haven't played Day of the Tentacle, then you are missing out. It is one of the best point-and-click adventure games that have ever been made, apart from the first 2 Monkey Island games and the first 2 Discworld games, in my opinion, obviously. In case you've never heard of it, the plot involves an evil tentacle trying to take over the world, a mad scientist, 3 friends who break into the mad scientist's house, and then with his help, try to travel back in time to stop the evil tentacle's plans before they start, but due to a mishap with the time machines, which are incidentally shaped like porta potties, because of course they are, they end up in 3 different time periods: the past, the present, and the future. You control all 3 characters and set about solving puzzles so you can get back home and stop the tentacle. Those puzzles can involve you passing items through time, or changing something in the past to affect the present. It's a really nice, brilliant game mechanic. When I bought the remaster for my PS4, I was a little bit worried. In the old days, if you got a point-and-click game that was translated to a console, the controls tended to not work very well. Point-and-click games were designed for use with a mouse, and that didn't usually translate very well to a console, particularly consoles in the mid-90s. But with this remastering comes the new controller-friendly control scheme, and do you know what? It's really nice, it works really well. And the rest of the game holds up brilliantly. The HD graphics are beautiful and crisp, but are not a redesign. They don't look different, just better to the original. And you can always switch between the two at any time on the PS4. You just do that by pressing the stupid touchpad thing in the middle of the controller. And I was grateful for that, because graphics don't need to be redesigned when they're this memorable. The plot is still as crazy as before. The puzzles, while 1 or 2 of them are pretty obscure, they're still, on the whole, great, inventive, and really, really keep you engrossed. My only problem was, because I'd played this game before, but about 15-20 years ago, I was remembering solutions to puzzles, but not the order in which you had to achieve the puzzles, which did lead me to getting into a few scrapes. But I got through it in the end. If you've got a PS4 and you pay for online, this game is part of your free PS Plus games in January, so you've still got some days left to download it. If you don't have it, download it. It is totally worth it. Honourable mentions. This game was a lot of fun. I reviewed it for 4dgamers.com and I couldn't stop playing it even after I'd done the review. It became a perfect pick up and play game for me, just like Rocket League was in 2015, Inversus was in 2016. I actually started to play a proper Pokemon game this year on my 3DS's Virtual Console. And do you know what? I got quite into it. Yeah, I still don't understand bits of it, but it's still fun. Dishonourable mention. As many of you may or may not know, in late November I played a 24-hour Sonic the Hedgehog marathon to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Care. And it was very successful. I raised over 150 quid, which is not to be sniffed at. But during that marathon, I played mostly games that I had played before. Some I hadn't completed before and did complete on the marathon, but there was one new one. And I know what everyone says about modern Sonic games, but I am a Sonic apologist. I like almost every Sonic game. So, while I wasn't expecting my best gaming experience ever, I was still excited to put the disc of Sonic Unleashed into my Xbox. And then I played it. Some of the 3D Sonic levels were okay, but the Werehog bits were marred by repetitive fighting, dull level design, and just tedium beyond belief. And the moment I discovered that you needed more coins, or whatever the currency was, I really can't remember, to unlock other bits of the map, making me go back to the dull, tedious levels I had finished and do them again to earn some more stuff, that was it, Sonic Unleashed. I'm out. Plus your hub world is dull and boring and way too expansive because there's bugger all in it. I realised quite quickly that the only bits I was enjoying were the 3D Sonic levels, and those are better in Sonic Generations, so I could just play Sonic Generations. I was disappointed because it does look nice from a graphical point of view, but it was one of the worst games I played in 2016. Number 1. This one is probably going to be a bit of a shock to those of you who read my blogs or have seen my videos or just know me personally, because as you'll all know, I'm not really a role-playing game kind of guy. But I am a big Nintendo guy, so when they announced the first line of budget Wii U titles and that Legend of Zelda was going to be among them, I thought, well, I may as well pick it up. And I'm glad I did, because I've really got into it. It's hard to say exactly what got me into it. I mean, it's gorgeous looking, it's really action orientated, and I know other Zelda games are too, but this really just gripped me from the beginning. Its tutorials are not too long. This isn't Twilight Princess where you spend 7 hours wandering about with stupid Midna telling you what to bloody do, which is what put me off that game when I bought it when it came out for the Wii. But you still know what you're doing and how to play the game. The puzzles are fun and satisfying to solve, and the boss fights are a good laugh and all. And yes, I know this is unsurprising. It's a first-party Nintendo game. Of course it's going to look good. Of course it's going to play well. Of course the game design is going to be at its peak. It's Nintendo, that's what you expect. But I still wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I am. Even my normal RPG complaints can't put me off this one. Yes, sometimes I start the game and forget what it is I'm doing and spend 20 minutes running around like a lunatic. Yes, the fact that it only saves at certain points in time bugs the absolute crap out of me. But still, I've put more time into this game than any other game this year, apart from probably Shovel Knight and Mario Kart 8, but I played those in 2015, so they don't appear on this list. And therefore, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker takes my number 1 spot. So what were your games of 2016? Did I miss any? I probably did. Tell me what they were in the comments below. I am working on a few more videos already for this year, and I'm hoping to keep the channel a bit more active than it was last year. I started well and tailed off last year, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen this year. Do keep an eye out, do subscribe so you know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. If you'd like to see any of my other top 5s, I've put links to them below. But please do share, enjoy, have fun, and I'll see you next time.